Hello there and welcome back to Beauty Bee. Today we're talking a little bit about project panning. If you have been on this channel before, you are likely aware that I have been doing my first real organized project pan this year. I have always, pretty much since I got into makeup, I've been interested in finishing things. For the past probably 2 or 3 years, I've been very unofficially really watching my progress, seeing how things get used up, but only in the past year, well, 13 months, have I been doing a real organized project pan. And in my humble opinion, or you know what, in my not so humble opinion, because I feel like I can brag about this a little bit, I think my project pan has been going really, really well. I've been super happy with my progress, and I thought I'd go through a few things that I have learned along the way to potentially help you on your first organized project pan. Let's start with putting together your project. My first big piece of advice would be to choose items that aren't going to compete with each other. If your goal is to finish a blush and a bronzer, choosing your most cool toned hot pink blush and an almost orange bronzer is probably going to jeopardize your ability to finish one or both, because you likely aren't going to be able to wear those together. So you've knocked out half of your days for those products, essentially. I'm not saying that everything you put on your face has to go together or that you need to use your project pan makeup every single day. But if you have, say, 3 or 4 complexion products, none of which really go together, you're likely not going to see a lot of progress on any of those products throughout the year. In a similar vein, number 2, keep in mind how you personally use makeup. For example, I wear makeup usually 7 days a week. If it's not 7, it's 6, and probably once or twice a week I'll end up doing my makeup multiple times in a day. So my makeup usage is going to look very different than someone who only wears makeup on the weekends. We're going to finish very different amounts of product, and our project pan should probably reflect that. Similarly, if you wear makeup to the office and you feel that really nude lips are what's appropriate for that office environment, that's fine. Just be aware that you're probably not going to be able to pan a red lipstick or purple lipstick. If you're going to put a lip product in a project pan, a nude is probably the way to go for you. Next, keep in mind the size of products. Now, I know that seems obvious as far as mini products versus full-size products, but if you haven't ever looked at the size of especially your face powders, take a look sometime. It is amazing how much they differ. I did a video a couple months ago, which I will link up in the cards, but I was looking at my blushes, and I was amazed by how much the size of the individual pans differed. I think that there were some blushes that were 2 to 2.5 times as large as other full-size blushes in my collection. It was wild to me how different they were, and I mean, if I were to put one of those larger blushes in a project, I feel like it could have been really disheartening to not realize that it was so much larger, because I've panned blushes before. I know that with about 1.5 years of relatively consistent use, so probably using it 4-ish times a week, I've panned quite small blushes. Well, if I got to that 1.5 year mark on my much larger blush, not realizing just how much larger it was, and I hadn't even hit pan yet, which seems like a very real possibility, I would have been super disheartened. That's not saying never put anything big in a project, just be aware of how large the items you're working on actually are so that your expectations can be realistic. Again, talking about keeping up motivation and not getting disheartened, I like to be able to see real progress throughout the year. I would then recommend that you choose some items that are going to have varying levels of difficulty to hit your goals. So maybe you have a lip gloss in there that's 2/3 of the way done. It's not a gimme product. You're still going to have to use it. You're still going to have to, I wanted to say put in the work. That's a little bit of a stretch. It's not that serious, but you're going to likely be able to hit that goal versus if you decide to put in 4 face powders and a liquid lipstick, you may well not see any real visible obvious progress until quite a ways into the year. Now for you that might be motivating. It might be like, nope, I'm going to use this every single day until I hit my goal. And you know if you're that kind of person. I am not that kind of person. After like February, I would probably be like, well, I'm not seeing any progress anyway, so why am I even bothering with these products? And all of my progress would come to not quite a screeching halt, but they would definitely decelerate rapidly. Now, pairing this sort of mixed ETAs with consistent updates, I think is probably what's kept me motivated this year. Is I want to see some amount of progress every month. It's great if I can have a major goal hit every month. Occasionally that does not happen, but knowing that I'm going to check in on the first of every single month, no matter what, does motivate me to use my products a little bit more. I find it very motivating to have a deadline. I think that I probably make half to 2/3 of the progress that I make in any given month on my projects in the last week. That's just how I operate. It's how I operate in every portion of my life. But if I didn't have sort of that deadline, if I did not have that first of the month update to post, I know that it would move further and further back, and I would just tell myself I'm going to update it sometime when I have progress, and that progress would never really happen. Finally, with these last 2 tips, we get out of planning the project and into the mechanics of and logistics of the project itself. First would be just forget the Sharpie. The Sharpie is not your friend. It seems like a really convenient way to mark progress, especially on bottles, but you just eventually end up with Sharpie smudged on your hand and no trace of your markers. Instead, try nail polish. I just use a nail polish that's kind of on the goopy side. It doesn't look good on my nails anymore, but it's very functional. I can make a line on a bottle and it really does stay. So that would be my recommendation. If you have other items that you like to use, I could also see someone using like really thin like washi tape. Is that the right word? I think so. Or really a variety of things. I would be very interested to know what you use down in the comments. Next, marking things on paper is so much harder than it looks. There are some people who I think are quite good at it. I see Paula at A Beauty Guru made me do it. Her updates, she marks a lot of things on paper and manages to do pretty well at it. I have a terrible time marking things on paper. It seems like it should be really easy to just trace out a lipstick and then mark it every month. It's not. I don't know why I can't manage it, but it's very hard for me. So I don't know if I should really be giving this tip because I haven't tried it out yet. However, I've seen Jen at the Jen Files. Again, I'm going to link both of their channels below. she has been just holding up a, she has been just taking pictures of her items against the same background, and that seems to be working really well for her. I think that's the approach that I'm going to adopt for my next year's project pan. In particular, I have a clipboard, which I don't know where it is right now, but I have a clipboard that is lined, and I think I'm going to sort of set that up vertically, put my products in front of it, and then take a picture from the same vantage point every month. And I think that will be a much better way of tracking progress than the paper. I rage quit the paper. It did not work for me at all. So there are my little tips for Project Pan. I will have my project linked up in the cards as well. You know, you can check that out and decide if I'm someone that you want to be taking any kind of Project Pan advice from. But I hope that this was helpful. Best of luck on your Project Pans for 2022 and beyond. Let us know your tips too, because I have not figured it all out yet, and I would love to know what will make my next year's Project Pan go a little bit more smoothly. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, and happy panning. See ya!